Oh. It's not much of a turnout though, is it?
寂しい組織だ。
あれだけ優秀な刑事だったのに、警察関係の参列者は一人も来やしない。
在職中はアルコールで問題を起こし、
Bit of a reputation, right?
泥酔しての転落死。警察はそう言ってるんですね。
亡くなった日の翌日、リヒャルトは娘さんと会う約束をしていたそうだ。私は彼に何をしてやった？
Yeah.
ライヒワイン先生。
ライヒワイン。
彼の話を聞いて、君はもう立ち直っただと。
But he was right about that though, see? But he doesn't understand.
彼に何をしてやったという。
Yeah.
ドクター・テン
To be expected, right?
彼を探し出せば、全てが解ける可能性がある。これはただの事故じゃない。自殺でもない。リハルトさんは死の数時間前に娘さんと電話で
I
話
love these
してるんです。
shots from above,
翌日会おうと。
through the branches. I've seen it a few times now.
あなたはやれるだけのことをやった。そしてリハルトさんは立派に立ち直っていた。
He did. He did.
自分を責めるのはやめてください。
It's impossible not to, right? In his position, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how Sensei kind of handles this, how he deals with it. Hey, look at this. That's a look at determination.
主人たら浮気が発覚して以来、私とは全く口を聞こうともいたしませんの。
Life goes on, right?
私と顔を合わせようともしませんの。そりゃ、うちに帰ってこないより
Yeah,
はマシ
he's
ですけ
distracted.
ど、こんな毎日じゃ私どうにかなりそうですわ。先生、聞いてらっしゃるの？
ああ。
Oh, I'm excited for this episode.
事件性？ないですよ。あれは単なる事故です。
So dismissive,
リヒャル
almost
ト・ブラウン
immediately.
はあの晩ミュンヘン大学12号館の屋上に一人で上がり、瓶一本のウイスキーを飲み干し、泥酔した挙句。
So they did find it in his system?
瓶は十分調べたのか？
ええ、リヒャルトの指紋が検出されました。
見せてくれないか、その瓶を。
まあいいですけど。
リヒャルト。
Oh. It's a great shot.
おかしいとは思いませんか？リハルトさんは死の数時間前に娘さんと電話で話してるんです。翌日会おうと。
Oh. Oh, it's a place, isn't it?
確かにあの晩この店に来たよ。一人でか。いや、そりゃ覚えてねえな。
That almost kind of looks like Johan sitting here, but it's not.
連れがいたかどうか覚えてないって？だってコーヒーを頼んだからさ。コーヒー？その時この青年と一緒じゃなかったか？ただウイスキー買ってったってことは事実だ。ちゃんと伝票に書いてある。本当にリヒャルトが買ったのか？覚えてねえって。ただ伝票にラッケ瓶一本って書いてあるんだ。今なんて言った？ラッケ瓶一本。
Okay,
なん
okay.
で警察署で瓶のラベルを見たとき気づかなかったんだろう。
俺はウイスキー一本やりで。
Did Johan slip up?
ラッケの匂いを部屋中にプンプンさせよって。
ラッケ？冗談じゃない。あんな国産絶対
Oh, Johan actually slipped up?
本場のスコッチ。
I thought it was a given that he'll know exactly
ウ
the
イス
drink
キ
to
ーを買
get.
ったのはリヒャルトじゃない。
Oh, not the train station again. It's like a carbon copy of the exact same. Look at that.
ヨハン。やはりあいつか。
You've got to be alert. Oh, okay, that time it's an actual person. Go on, go on, go on. All that running should come in handy. Who sent him? Oh, look at him go. Yes. Oh, great animation there. Don't... It's always risky to end up in a dark alley, though. Oh, okay. A different type of bar. Different demographic.
Yo, Ji-san.
Ji-san. Who the hell is this? No, don't step on those. Hey man, old man's strength is a thing. Clutch. Who's the big man that's attached to Johan? There's only one that really jumps out. Look at this. Handled his business, didn't he? Roberto, right? That's the big man. That's the enforcer. Johan's enforcer. He's gonna have to be really careful now. The type he liked. Right.
絶対に突き止めてやる。あいつのヨハンの正体を。
Oh god, the stalker shot. He's being watched. Okay, so he's being followed or tailed by multiples.
先生、聞いてらっしゃるの？
ああ、もちろん、平成さん。それよりも毎日黙って洗車と庭掃除をしているというご主人の方が心配ですね。あとメレスさん、昨日もまた裏のドアの鍵閉め忘れてたよ。
あ、いけない。今日も忘れるとこだった。あ、またやっちゃった。
カンニングの思い出を語り合おう。
Right.
こんな文章で本当にドクターテンマは連絡を取ってくるのかね。
ええ、もしテンマがそれを見たら必ず。
Inside joke, right?
私たち2人だけしか知らない話でしてね。
なるほど。マルゴット・ランガーの名を語った娼婦だよ。リヒャルトはこう言ってたんだ。
自殺したファーレがあの女に会いに行った時、もう一人青年がいた。
Handsome lad, apparently, right?
金髪の美しい青年がね。
メレスさん、今日は窓を閉め忘れてる。
She's really quite ditzy, isn't she? Candy lips.
マルゴット・ランガー知らないね。あのデブのババアね。おじさん、ああいうのが趣味？
いや、別にそういうのじゃなくて。
ここんとこ見かけないね。どっかいいとこでも行ってんだろ。
Better place? A permanent better place, perhaps?
まったくなんであのデブのババアばっかり持ってるんだろ。あの新しい男とどっか行ったんだろ。
新しい男？
ああ、年がいもなくあのババア夢中になってさ。
Look at
でかい男さ。
でかい男。
It's gotta be Roberto, isn't it?
私の方もでかそうな男だよ。
There's so much character there, even in this character.
戸締まりだけはよろしくね。
Yeah, they're really focusing on that door and how ditzy she is, right?
上がってください。
Really building up towards this.
もう一度あの女を訪ねてみるか。ようこそヘセさん。
よろしくお願いします。
どうぞ中へ。
カウンセリングなんて初めてなもので。
Oh my god, it's him, isn't it? They're not showing him. Yeah, it's him. It's Roberto.
最近はどうですか？何か悩みとか。
家内に
God.
浮気がバレましてね。家にいても所在がなくて。庭掃除したり車洗ったり。
浮気相手の女性とはも
う。ああ。殺しちゃったんです。
え？
いや、殺した夢を見たんですよ。
Margot's gone. Fake Margot, that is.
いや、最近は見なくなりました。
This is interesting.
孤独だったんですよ。
Yeah, interesting insight.
いや、彼に会ってからね。
It's gonna click at some point.
美しい青年なんですよ。金髪のね。何人殺しても国がなくなっても私の中では全てが夢みたいだったんです。でも彼と会ってから違ったんです。
He kind of gave him a direction in life, did he?
全てがリアルに見えて、もう孤独じゃなくなったんです。
Like a moth to the flame, to the light. And this guy, oh, so creepy.
お茶でもどうですか？
Oh God. Oh no, is that the back door?
先生、人の夢を知ってしまうわけだし。
That is, isn't it? Oh my God, she locked it. She locked it, didn't she?
いい夢を知ってしまうと、ろくなことはない。
Chuck it at his face. The whole thing.
私が人殺しだっていうことなんて。
Come on.
とにかく。
That's why they kept focusing on it throughout the episode.
鍵を閉め忘れていてくれ、メレさん。
Could this be his undoing? Yes. Oh. How about that? This gotta be Tenma.
あんた。早く逃げて。ずっとあなたを見張
Yeah,
ってい
he's
た
been tailing you.
あなたは狙われている。逃げなさい。
Ah, the return. Okay, look at that. It's all happening now, isn't it? You know, there's this coming together at this point of characters that are kind of established separately, right? They kind of have their own separate mini arcs. And you know, one of the things that was so clear the moment I saw Tenma around the midpoint of the episode, right? He shows up at the graveyard, at the cemetery, right? You know, there's bit of a subversion there, right? Bit of a fake out, right? It kind of makes you think, okay, of course he is being watched, right? You know, they make that really quite clear through the shot selection, but you know, I did not expect Tenma to be the one to walk up, but indeed that's Tenma right there. He's been tailing Reichwein Sensei, and of course, you know, I've got a few questions about that. But I'll kind of hold off on that until the next episode. You know, I might just get the answers I'm looking for in terms of Tenma kind of tailing Dr. Reichwein Sensei, as Richard calls him. Sorry, not Richard. Richard's long gone. As Rudy calls him. Yeah, it's a great little moment. And then of course there's the other setup throughout the episode of this, you know, oaf, this big man, you know, who's unfaithful to, you know, his wife. It turns out to be Roberto. Now, of course, you know, it's still a bit of an unknown here. I mean, you know, it's highly likely that this is not actually her husband, right? Right? I don't know. You know, I'm still kind of undecided about that, because if indeed that is the case, you know, he actually does happen to be her husband, you know, honestly speaking, that's a bit of a contrived coincidence at that point. You know, that's if indeed that is her husband, and, you know, by chance, she happens to go to this doctor as well. But the thing is, you always have to think about the possibility of Johan always thinking steps ahead, right? That he himself might have had a hand in getting this lady to this doctor specifically, right? Because, you know, if indeed this actually is Roberto's wife, then, you know, it makes sense for Johan to make sure to set this up. But, you know, then again, I have to pivot, because during that session, he's speaking of things that do feel quite personal. You know, it really was beginning to feel like, okay, this is some fascinating insight on Roberto, right? And then how he came across Johan, or how Johan came across him, right? Everyone's got a story about how they came across that handsome boy, right? That enigma, and how it kind of changed their life and gave them a new purpose, or redirected their purpose. So to me, it actually felt like that Roberto is sharing about his life, his recent life, and, you know, again, his run-in with Johan and how it changed everything, right? And to me, it kind of felt like, okay, he's being open about this and sharing this information because, he knows he's going to kill Dr. Reichwein. But, you have something that's a bit out of character as well for Roberto, because he really prolongs it. Now, of course, there's a possibility that he just knew he had him. Yeah, he was really quite sure that, Dr. Reichwein is going nowhere. But yeah, Roberto kind of lets it go on and on. He lets it play on. Then, of course, he kind of moves in for the kill, and Dr. Reichwein takes that split moment to hit him in the face, right? Splash him. Now, the thing is, Roberto truly is this Terminator figure, isn't he? This massive oaf ogre type enforcer, because he kind of took that like a champ and he got right back up. Maybe a tad bit unrealistic, him not showing any signs of pain, or I don't know, maybe they could have showcased that, okay, it got him a bit, it is boiling water at the end of the day. But the whole meeting, that whole scene is so tense, right? So tense, because us, the audience, has a really good idea that it is Roberto, but still they haven't shown him yet, right? They keep cutting off the face, they keep showing his hands, and of course us, the audience, knows that those are Roberto's tools, right? The enforcer's tools. But yeah, it pans up, and indeed it is Roberto, right? And of course, the description really fits the bill, right? The big man that you hear about throughout the episode. But in terms of setups and payoffs, how about the back door? Throughout the episode, on a few occasions, they set up that, okay, this could come back to bite someone in the ass. This could come back to bite Reichwein in the ass, right? This idea of the door accidentally being left unlocked, right? Because she's so ditzy and all of that, right? But the opposite happens. It actually ends up being his door of hope. So by the end of it, he's actually hoping that she is true to her ditzy nature and did forget to lock it. And that's exactly how it plays out. I thought that whole thing, that setup and this specific payoff is just, it's fantastic. I mean, it certainly quite effectively and quite successfully subverts our expectations, doesn't it? It's great. It's great stuff. Again, Dr. Tenma being the one at the cemetery, right? Then you've got Roberto showing up as the husband. And then, of course, the door itself, right? Being set up as his potential undoing. But again, it turns out to be the door of hope for Reichwein. But also in terms of setup and payoffs, you see how Dr. Reichwein kind of decides to handle this, right? Yes, he's a little bit distracted, to be expected. It's really quite realistic, actually. And, some of his decisions are really quite realistic in the sense that a few of them are kind of silly. It's a bit of a stupid decision to run after that guy. I mean, it's realistic that he goes after him, he chases after him, but it's a little bit stupid for him to do that, isn't it? And they do address that a little bit later on, as he tells Rudy that, from this point on, I'm going to be really quite cautious, for the cause. I have to be around. I have to stay in the game, because he wants to clear Richard's name. He wants to set the record straight. But, going back to my point about, setups and payoffs, this notion of setting him up as someone who keeps in shape. And then a little bit later, they even tell us that, he's got training under his belt. So, later on, as he is able to kind of take care of those two thugs, it didn't feel unrealistic to me, for a few different reasons, of course. Of course, they set up that he keeps in shape. And he's got the training, like I just mentioned. And, there's that notion of old man strength, experience, hardened individuals at that age, right? So him having the resolve, the courage, the endurance to chase after these people, right? To sprint after them. It all checks out, right? It all made sense. It's a great payoff. It really is. And I've got to say, that chase sequence, it actually had some fantastic animation. It's really quite noticeable. And even the beatdown itself, as Reichwein is getting kicked around, even that had some fantastic animation. I thought so, at least. But yeah, I think it's safe to say that I really enjoyed the focus on Dr. Reichwein. And that kind of reminds me, I have to finish my point about seeing Dr. Tenma, mid-episode, right? I mean, it's exciting to see him again, but, it was immediately also a reminder to me that, it's nice to see him, but the show itself, the story itself, and the characters that have been established, they gave me no reason to actually truly miss Tenma, right? I was completely engaged in Richard's story. And then, of course, alongside Richard, and then after Richard as well, you've got Reichwein and Rudy. So yeah, the story arc has kept me quite engaged, really quite busy, right? So of course, it's exciting to see Tenma, but at no point did I, feel like, okay, they need to bring Tenma back in now. And again, that's nothing new. That's been established at this point. 30 episodes in, it's one of the things this series, this story excels at. The writing of this story excels at, right? That there's so many fantastic characters, even limited appearance characters that can just take up your headspace, that can take up that time in a mini story arc. And these mini arcs and these limited appearance characters or supporting cast characters do demand your attention, or they do command your attention rather. And as expected, at first, Dr. Reichwein is really blaming himself, right? Or blaming himself for perhaps not doing enough, not doing anything even. At one point at the funeral, he's actually contemplating if he did anything at all for the late Richard, right? Again, that's really quite realistic. That's human nature, because he did find himself opposite to Richard in a position of, I don't know, not a position of power per se, but in a position of someone who can guide him, who is guiding him, right? Someone who told him that now you've made a full recovery. You see that he's actually full of self-doubt at that moment, right? He's beginning to question if he even had a solid grasp on it, right? That he was potentially wrong in his assessment, that he wasn't fully recovered. And he, again, your mind starts going down some dark alleys. But, at that point, he must be thinking, my God, did I have a hand in this, by kind of giving this false assessment? Did I give him this false hope, this free pass? Maybe he thought he's okay to drink now. These kind of things begin to linger. And I love how the scene after the funeral itself, outside of the church, it's essentially a carbon copy of Dr. Becker and Dr. Tenma in the early days of the anime, right? First few episodes after the death of, Ava's father's funeral. Same shots, right? From above through the branches. I love those shots. It's one of Urasawa's signature shots in Monster, isn't it? I'm really quite excited to see more of this really specific art style. Urasawa's really specific art style, be it in other manga, be it in Pluto, right? Yes, I certainly have plans on getting to Pluto. It's one of those anime that I'm just going to get to at some point. It's not one of those cases of, if it comes out on top in a poll. No. It's something I most definitely need to get to, right? It's kind of a lock. It's just a matter of the timing. But let's shift the focus back to Dr. Reichwein and his legwork, him going into the bar, right? That specific bar, of course. And the crazy thing is, it's clearly a bit of a misdirect, because surely that can't be Johan sitting right there, but it looks just like Johan, same type of suit, same hair. But of course, that's not Johan sitting there, right? Because Dr. Reichwein even pulls out a photo of Johan, right? So the barkeep could easily just be like, hold on, is that not the person sitting right there, from the photo? But there, something really interesting happens, because he's able to uncover a bit of an inconsistency, the type of bottle, or the type of brand rather, right? And there you essentially have a bit of a slip up, right? Something really quite rare. But see, the thing is, it's just really, really out of character for Johan to slip up in this manner. So for that reason, you simply have to also think about the possibility of him doing that by design as well, right? Perhaps he understood that Dr. Reichwein is going to, go in on this. He is going to put in the legwork. He is going to continue on Richard's behalf. So maybe that bottle, the wrong brand, is by choice as well. So perhaps that could be Johan pulling Dr. Reichwein in as well, right? Giving him that opening. So yeah, the possibility of Johan baiting Dr. Reichwein is certainly there. It certainly is there, right? That's a bit more likely than Johan actually slipping up, right? But the thing I really liked about this episode, because of the focus on Dr. Reichwein, is those moments that he's having by himself, right? He feels really quite alone or isolated, or just really quite disconnected from everything. But, he kind of reels himself back in. There's a few moments, a few frames from this episode that are some of the best I've seen in this anime so far. Be it him kind of sitting in the gym by himself, right? The framing of it is so fantastic. And then, of course, as the camera moves in tighter and he fills up the frame, there's that moment, right? That the light bulb moment that goes off, and then he goes to the bar. But yeah, I love that. I loved him going to the cemetery, right? Sitting on Richard's grave, bringing him the type of drink that he does like, right? That the brand he does like, the international stuff. That right there is one of the standout moments of the series for me. Dr. Reichwein, just kind of paying his respects. But yeah, in terms of the aftermath, the official assessment, the autopsy, and all of that, it's believed that indeed he did drink the whole bottle. His fingerprints are on the bottle, and he fell off. He fell to his death. And the thing is, that one cop in the flashback is really, really quite dismissive, almost immediately at the notion of it being a homicide, right? He's really quite, I don't know, clear cut or dead set on it just being an accident, because I suppose that's how clear it felt to him. Now, I'm not saying, this guy's in on it or he's been paid off, but yeah, a lot of these cops, or this is not the first time they've kind of depicted some of these cops as incompetent, right? Not the most inquisitive, if you will. There's a few of them. You've got someone like Lunge, but of course Lunge has his own pros and cons. So by them saying that, he drank the whole bottle and fell to his death, I think that's essentially confirmation that indeed they found a lot of alcohol in his system, right? I think that's a safe assumption to make here, because surely it's not just based on the fingerprints, right? But going back to the session itself, Roberto and Dr. Reichwein, yeah, there's certainly a lot of fascinating insight there. Roberto kind of felt like this hollow individual, right? Lonely. The thing is, even earlier, he tells the lady, if indeed she is his actual wife, that, I'm actually more concerned about your husband, right? Because he's a professional, Dr. Reichwein. So he could tell that, this man is exhibiting certain traits, certain behavior that could be associated with someone that is depressed, someone that is a little bit hollow, someone that doesn't have a direction, perhaps, someone that feels lonely, alone, right? I mean, all of this sounds kind of strange to say out loud about Roberto, right? Given the things I know about Roberto, but that actually provides a bit of nuance to the character of Roberto. But again, the key component of this is everything changed after I met him, right? That I was no longer lonely. Everything began to seem real, right? He found someone like-minded. He found someone of his ilk, someone he can relate to, someone that gets him, someone that understands him. But yeah, even if it felt a little bit out of character for Roberto to just kind of prolong that and not killing Dr. Reichwein almost immediately, the scene itself is spectacular. It really is. And yeah, it's all set up nicely now. Dr. Tenma is back in the picture, and he has these allies, Dr. Reichwein, Rudy, right? So I'm excited, man. I'm really quite excited. It really leaves it off on this perfect spot. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full length, timer-based full length, of course, or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media, if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 31. Until then, take it easy.